That's the news at a little after 1:30. Now on BBC News 24, it's time for Our World. The Scouts are celebrating their 100th anniversary, and with a worldwide membership of more than 28 million, Scouting is the biggest youth organisation in the world. Robert Hall reports from South Africa, the cradle of the movement, and the UK on how the movement is facing up to the challenges of the 21st century.
We're at the heart of a truly extraordinary 100th birthday party. Around me here, more than 30,000 young guests, all of them members of the world's largest youth movement. Because this is the World Scout Jamboree, the end of a journey for those who've travelled here from almost every corner of the globe. What is it, though, that draws them together? How have the thoughts of a colonial war hero survived changes in society? And is Scouting really prepared to challenge and inspire new generations? We took our own journey to find out. Guguletto Township on the outskirts of Cape Town, in a country where Scouting was conceived. And if its founder could be here today, he'd probably be smiling. There's a real buzz in the air. 150 Scouts from all over this area have gathered to set out their stall, not only to friends and neighbours, but to a group of visitors from overseas who are helping to ensure that Scouting has a future. There was a time when a day like this would have been inconceivable. During the long years of apartheid, Scouts, like South African society, were divided by the colour of their skin. A division that's now part of history for the boys and girls joining a youth organisation that finds its greatest strength in the developing world. National pride runs deep here, as do the roots of a movement which has maintained its appeal.
There's many activities, the games are fun, and we go on lots of camps.
It's more brotherhood than just scouting. People come, they become friends. They don't stop speaking to each other when they leave. It's a big, fun adventure, basically.
If you ask scouts what does scouting mean to them, each one will give you a different meaning. But I think that it's just a great youth movement.
It gives them confidence to go further and to make a success of their life. That's what Scouting, it teaches you leadership. And you can see even, teachers has come up to me and says, you can see who's Cubs and Scouts in the class, because those are the boys and girls that stands up and can really react to what is happening today.
Enthusiasm which does strike a chord with today's visitors. Over a quarter of the funding that supports Scouting around the globe comes from the World Scout Foundation.
As you all know, we are celebrating this year the 100 years anniversary of this organization. And when it all started, it was here in your country, and that's why we are here. They respect you.
Yeah, they respect you.
This delegation, here to see how their cash is being spent, includes a head of state with strong personal links to Robert Baden-Powell's movement.
I started as a Cub Scout, and Scouting has always been in my family. My father was a great scout.
Thank you.
Each year I feel more and more strong about Scouting. It's a fantastic organization. It is worldwide, which we sometimes forget about. We always talk about 160 different countries. And I think we are definitely the world's biggest youth organization. And each time I get this question, I never know exactly which figure I should use, because it adds the whole time. But around 30 million boys and girls around the world, and I think it's fantastic.
The brilliance of Scouting is that the basic principles of character and and honesty and caring for other people and doing a good turn daily, the basic principles that Baden-Powell developed, those principles have not changed. He could not have possibly imagined that he would have created a program that is serving roughly 30 million kids a year. I mean, it's unbelievable. His genius, the genius of what he created, his concept was create a program that's fun, that's out of doors, that's challenging for kids, that kids will enjoy. And by the way, in the process, in the process of having fun, they're going to learn, on my honor, I'll do my best to do my duty to God and my country. And that was the genius.
So what was the spark that started all this? To find out, I'd have to travel north from the sprawling city beneath Table Mountain, a trail leading back to South Africa's colonial past. Nearly 900 miles from the cosmopolitan south to a dusty market town near the border with Botswana. A town that locals call the place of stones, Mafikeng. At the turn of the 20th century, the town, occupied by the British, was under siege from a Boer army. Heavily outnumbered, the garrison, under a Colonel Robert Baden-Powell, held out for over 7 months. Among the defenders were the 30 or so boys of the Mafikeng Cadet Corps, acting as lookouts, delivering messages, helping with casualties, and giving Baden-Powell the germ of an idea.
What we see here is the graves of the British casualties from the siege.
In a neglected corner of Mafikeng's town cemetery, local scout coordinator Theo Mothlabane showed me the grave of the only cadet to lose his life in the siege.
It's very true to say the cadets concept which Baden-Powell used during the siege of Mafikeng gave birth to what is called scouting today.
In fact, you could say scouting started here in South Africa.
If it was not because of the siege, if it was not because of the involvement of young people during the siege, nobody will have scouting today. We won't be celebrating 100 years of scouting.
This is the flag that was actually came here with Lord Baden-Powell.
Baden-Powell's presence here is now just one historic moment for scouting and South Africa. Both have moved on. But in this region, where jobs are scarce and the future uncertain, his legacy is flourishing. Teenagers here are still following his basic philosophy, helping themselves by helping others.
There won't be food for you, Nene. So this one can survive in this environment because of the grass alien thing is good enough to feed.
In this case, teaching village children something of the natural world outside Mafikeng's dusty suburbs. Up-close introductions they would never have experienced. One of the local scouts was also looking forward to a new experience. A 16-year-old who shares a birthday with Baden-Powell had been picked to travel further than he had ever dreamt was possible, as a delegate to Scouting's 21st World Jamboree.
I never thought I could go there. So I was surprised because I'm going there as a scout. People think that the scouts cannot go away.
Back in Cape Town, the centenary celebrations had already begun. The funding from these partygoers had helped ensure that every scout community would be represented at the Jamboree.
If Baden-Powell was looking down, which I'm sure he is, on what we're doing today and the number of kids around the world that we're serving and the magnificent work of the World Scout Foundation, he would be more than pleased.
Across this continent and around the world, thousands of young people were on the move, a web of scouting with one man at its centre. Robert Baden-Powell had returned to Britain a hero, full of ideas as to how his African experiences might help young people back home, and keen to try those ideas out. In 1907, he brought together 20 boys from wide-ranging social backgrounds. They pitched tent on an island off the south coast of England to do just that. Scouting may have been forced to evolve over the years, but some things haven't changed. A sense of adventure, a love of the outdoors, lasting friendships. All of which were no doubt explained in detail to the 20 boys who came to Baden-Powell's first camp on Brownsea Island in Dorset exactly 100 years ago. And Scouting's founder was still reflecting on those values when he made this, his final recording, to celebrate his 80th birthday.
I've always tried to carry out the Scout promise and the Scout law in all that I do. If you do that, you'll make a success of your life and will have a very happy time.
What I think Scouting has got, which is distinctive, is a value base which seems to be rather more enduring and holding out the possibility that it will take you not just through childhood, but also through childhood into adolescence and for some into adulthood. And the chance of doing that with a reasonably compact group of one's friends, I think, remains a very key, distinctive characteristic of what Scouting offers.
Cubs, do your best. We will do our best.
A century on, Baden-Powell would still recognise a great deal at this Cub Pack meeting in Birmingham. The uniforms are less formal, there are boys and girls at the flag break, but the movement's aims are unchanged.
This time when you're all hopping!
I think it's kids doing everything together, being in one place, doing things, encouraging each other and having a go. It's nice to see the kids enjoying themselves and not hanging around on the street corners, and yeah, just feel like I'm doing my bit and putting my bit back in.
Liz Payne, with her husband and daughter, have made Scouting a family concern. Volunteers are in short supply across the UK. Entering its second century, Scouting's leaders face new challenges and occasional frustration.
I find some of the new rules and regulations and child protection stops you doing a lot with the kids like they used to a while ago, but it is protecting and health and safety and things like that, so you've got to respect it.
We were thinking about, it sounds dangerous and daft, but it wouldn't have been, like building a little bridge to go across a brook. But our leader, he looked at it and he said it's just too dangerous.
A lot of kids don't like Scouting, I don't think, because
there used to be a stigma involved.
Yes, it's like my son used to do it and he gave up because it wasn't the in thing with his mates.
It's stuff they do and it's stuff they wouldn't normally do, you know, from basic skills like chopping wood to tying knots and stuff. A lot of kids these days cannot actually tie a knot to save them lives, but by going through the Scouting, you know, and the first aid we do and stuff, could just save someone's life, or for a couple of hours on a Friday.
Do you get teased about it?
No.
No? People don't say things.
If some people say things, I just say, well, at least I'm doing something in my life. At the end of the day, I'm not just sitting there being bored, I'm actually out doing something.
A few miles away, Jade Stevens shares that commitment. Picked with Jessica to join 40,000 fellow scouts at the World Jamboree, she's had to help raise almost £1,000 to join the UK contingent.
At the start, it's like, look, you worry how you're going to get the money, and fundraising, you wouldn't expect to be able to raise that much money, but you can do it. We've done like fundraising at supermarkets, we've done cake sales at like church fairs, and just go around to local companies like in the local town and ask if they donate money and tell them what it's about and stuff like that. It's like an opportunity to meet other people from all around the world. You get to do stuff that you maybe haven't done before, and like go away for like 12 days and meet other people, make friends that you can keep for the rest of your life.
Another member of Scouting's extended family en route to an extraordinary birthday party. Highlands Park in the UK. Robert Baden-Powell could only have dreamt of this. Over 40,000 scouts and leaders, the largest world jamboree ever staged. Flags and uniforms from almost 200 countries. Baden-Powell saw the Jamboree as crucial in breaking down cultural divides. He named the event after the Swahili greeting, Jambo. Jamborees were to be about saying hello. Within hours of arriving here, thousands of scouts had already put that theory to the test.
Always friendly. Yeah.
You've made lots of friends?
Yes.
It's great. You see a lot of people from different countries and different cultures. You learn a lot here.
Things that you maybe do not learn at home or at school, scouting is learning you that. And also it learns you how to survive in the woods, not only in the woods, but in life. How to go forward with something you're doing. That's it.
From its earliest days, Scouting has set out to challenge young people. A century on, Baden-Powell would recognise many of the skills being honed here. But today's jamborees go beyond rock climbing and rope bridges. Every day brings surprises, new traditions, new sounds, new understanding.
I'm Jade.
Nice meeting you guys.
We'd last met Seppi, Jade and Jessica at opposite ends of the world. Scouting had brought them together.
3, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Friendship, adventure, some things hadn't changed. But when the first Jamboree was staged, just after the First World War, a mere 8,000 scouts attended. A stroll round this site revealed the extent to which even the most remote nations had seized on Baden-Powell's ideals.
I've been shaking hands like this for 77 years. That's a long time, isn't it?
My father, who first made his scout promise in 1930, has watched the movement evolve through the generations. When you look around
It's
now,
fantastic.
what's anything different? Is
Yes,
it the
indeed.
same?
First of all, the administration and organisation is fantastic compared with the old days, and an ordinary jamboree in the old days barely coped with 10,000 or 12,000. But no, and also it's wonderful to see girls everywhere. Everyone in Scout uniform is a friend of everybody else in Scout uniform. And that's important. Hello!
Across the campsite, the sack race victors had navigated their way down the dusty tracks to take up a dinner invitation.
Is everything all right? How are you again?
It's safe. Neither they nor their hosts had known what to expect from the Jamboree experience. None had been disappointed.
It's really good because even though we don't all speak the same language, we still find a way of communicating somehow. Like, it's really weird how we all can talk and that, but we all have different languages, and it's like we've known each other for ages, how we just go and talk to each other and stuff.
I thought they were just making a joke when they say 40,000 people will come here. I didn't think it will be like that.
There's no competition or hatred anywhere. It's all smiles and happiness.
On Brownsea Island, site of that first camp, the current UK Chief Scout called the movement together to renew a promise it first made a century ago. Rivers of scouts flowing across the Jamboree site, in the knowledge that across oceans, on far continents, others would gather for this symbolic moment. Familiar words, whatever language was spoken.
Join with me in saying, on my honor, I promise to do my best.
Before long, the tents would be packed, the scouts homeward bound. Addresses swapped, along with vows to keep in touch. Pilgrims crisscrossing the world with stories of a party now over.
In all my 80 years, I can't remember a time when I wasn't busy. And so long as you are busy, you can't help being cheerful.
But what of the future? Baden-Powell's blueprint, Scouting for Boys, may be one of the most read books ever, but today's teenagers are looking for more. A sense of adventure still plays its part, but 21st century Scouting must work hard to provide the personal challenges that its founder pioneered. The movement has at times struggled with its image, with the decline in numbers, with the competition from TV and computer games. No wonder that Scouts have learnt that change is a fact of life.
The question sometimes Scouting people say is, well, it's not what Baden-Powell would have done. And I think that's the wrong question. What Baden-Powell did was he took the situation that he identified in the Edwardian Britain of his time, and he crafted an organisation which was fit for the purpose then. And the task of the organisation now is to keep crafting a set of arrangements which fit with a changing society.
Facing up to change means facing up to today's issues. Back in Mafeking, where so many children have been orphaned by the AIDS epidemic, teenagers who can barely afford Scout uniforms are giving life-saving advice and offering leadership beyond their years.
It's a leadership training, which I think it's the basic, very important for the future. We always need leaders, how to deal with other boys and girls, and how to deal with other religions, and how to deal with other cultures. And this is, I find it's important, as important now as 100 years ago.
For millions of Scouts worldwide, one of the greatest obstacles is funding. Scouting's survival so often depends on outside help.
If we're serving 30 million Scouts around the world, we ought to be serving 60 million Scouts around the world. It's tough to be a kid today. In America, it's tough to be a kid today. It's tough to grow up as a child in Africa. And these children need what Scouting has to offer. And the fact that it's been around for 100 years is unbelievable. And we just need to, as in running any business, we just need to do a better job.
But perhaps Scouting's greatest asset is its membership. In so many cases, growing out of the uniform does not mean growing out of the movement.
When you become a Scout, you make a promise. If you start going to Scouts, you don't say, you don't like release the promise. That promise is still in there. You still made that promise. It's still with you. So technically, you are still a Scout. So once a Scout, always a Scout is true to me. If I leave Scouts, I'll always have what I learned from Scouts, and I always use that to my advantage.
In the town where Scouting was conceived, old songs had drawn more young people to the campfire's warmth. To them, Robert Baden-Powell is a figure from the history books, and yet they are part of his legacy. Back here in Mafeking, there are few doubts about Scouting's future. There's a passionate belief here that new generations will carry the torch that Baden-Powell lit. His movement has survived changes in society no one could have envisaged. And yet, around the world, Scouts are still keeping their promise.